Find a new way to live in Toronto's coveted Forest Hill neighborhood. Foray by Canderel blends thoughtful, livable suite design with refined finishes and more than 50,000 square feet of amenities, including wellness spaces, work-from-home areas, fitness facilities, and places to unwind. A modern, elevated community crafted for the life you've earned. Your next home starts from $599,000. Learn more at live@foray.ca. That's live@FORET.ca.
Hey everybody, we're the Menschwarmers. I'm Jamie. I'm here with my co-host Gabe. Gabe, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. I had to tear myself away from the red carpet at the Met Gala to be here for this podcast tonight. But I am thrilled to be here.
This is more of a Mets Gala.
Hey, ho, ha, ho. Hit him with it. Yes, it is a thrilled to be here tonight. Just got back from a week in Alberta. Lovely place, there are plenty of Jewish people. It wasn't a particularly Jewish trip, but it was a lovely time with my family. Now back to get in for the yucks and to yap it up about Jewish sports with you. Thrilled to be here.
No guest today. This is sort of a, nice. We do this every few episodes, I would say, a sort of table setting, what's going on in the world of Jews and sports. It's been a few weeks since we last broke everything down. But before we get to news, and funny you should say Alberta, because we were part of, I guess, a bit of reportage of sorts. In that
a gentle breaking of a story, maybe a bending of a story, but gentle breaking.
We're not getting a Pulitzer like Pablo Torre, but
it's our lead story tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, our lead story tonight.
Our lead story tonight is that a listener and fan of the pod reached out. His name is Dimitri. And he reached out because he has been trying to get Wayne Gretzky reported on Wikipedia as having Jewish ancestry. And the origin of it is an interview that Wayne did. It was about a year ago. Like it's not that recent. But no one had picked up on this, and he was talking about his family and his upbringing. His dad was famously this incredible hockey dad who flooded the back ice and all that, and he says that his grandfather was 50% Jewish.
I thought that was pretty cool.
It's incredible. So I must ask you, did your father speak Polish?
Yes. So
okay.
They spoke a slang. My grandfather was from Minsk, Russia at that time, and I think that was the time they were trying to kill, people don't know this, but my grandfather was 50% Jewish. Yep. And so a lot of people got out of there, and my grandmother...
That's sort of the entirety of it. There's a few other comments about it, but
talks about him being in the Ukraine, and at that time, Jews weren't really doing so well there back then.
Right.
He's
referenced it in the sense of talking about his background, where exactly they're from. I guess in the Jewish context, you usually call it Bessarabia. But
it could be a little white Russia in there too, also in the Jewish context.
Yeah, exactly. And talks about it not being a good time for Jews and wanting to leave. And he says, people don't know this, but my grandfather's 50% Jewish. So we tweeted it. It was well received. It got written up in a few places. I know it was on the JTA's sport report. I just looked. It is not yet on Wikipedia.
Darn.
Wikipedia has its own sort of deep arcana on how things actually get changed. So part of it is needing sourcing from outside sources, having someone say something in a YouTube video somehow is not necessarily good enough.
But we are the outside source. We are a good enough outside source. We believe we're quoted in several Wikipedia
I don't know
articles.
If we are or not, but this is it's a piece of ammunition. So Dimitri, if you're listening, have at it. Go try to get
quote us.
We'll have a transcript
of this.
Page.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll have a transcript of this that says Wayne Gretzky's grandfather was 50% Jewish. And if that's not sufficient to get it on Wikipedia, I don't know what is.
So this starts a big debate, which is 1/8 of Wayne Gretzky now the greatest Jewish hockey player of all time?
Oh, that is a good question. So if you took Wayne Gretzky's stats, famously, he had 800 goals.
Yeah.
Second most of all time. If you took an eighth of that, I don't know. It's a good question. I mean,
Yes.
So maybe this leads us into the next part of our topic for tonight, which is to talk about the NHL playoffs. Because if we're going to talk about who the next best is, or who the current leader of all time is, I'm going to say that it's probably someone who's playing right now, whose career is not finished.
Who you mean of Jewish players, Jewish athletes?
Of Jewish players, yeah.
Yeah, so Wayne had 894 goals, 1,963 assists, eye-popping, insane numbers, averaged 2 points a game for his entire career. But if we take that in eighths, that's only, 112 goals, and I guess 2,000 divided by 8 is 250, so that's 112 goals and 250 assists.
Okay,
right
so
now.
Yeah. So Quinn Hughes, I would say, if we're gonna, someone who I think we're gonna talk about shortly.
Oh yes.
Currently has 485 points. Now the majority of those are assists. That's been sort of his forte. He's never been an elite goal scorer, but pretty much the best setup man in the game, or one of the best setup men in the game. Is he now the greatest Jewish hockey player of all time? Like
he's
where
we're
getting, in terms of men who have played in the NHL. Where exactly are we listing these guys? Because he's a 2-time All-Star. His brother Jack is another contender, and I think Zach Hyman is another contender as well. And I think it's sort of there are guys from back in the day. There's people we've talked about. There's people Jews who've been involved.
Your Michaels Camilleri and men of that nature.
Yeah, there have Jews been involved in professional hockey for really as long as it's been played. But I don't know if any of them really measure up in the same way as the guys who are playing right now.
So Zach Hyman has 234 goals, which is twice as many as one eighth of Wayne Gretzky. Sorry, 261 goals and 234 assists. So he's got twice as many goals as 1/8 of Wayne Gretzky, and about as many assists as 1/8 of Wayne Gretzky. So I think it's fair to say right now Zach Hyman has had a better career than 1/8 of Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah.
If longevity is part of it. If you were to also do 1/8 of Wayne's games, then he's the greatest per game player of all time who had a career cut tragically short by the introduction of, non-Jewish people into his bloodline.
Right. It's an interesting point. I mean, look, I am all for claiming a portion of Wayne. He obviously, he's mentioned on a podcast. It's interesting. I reached out to the Alberta Jewish News. It was news to them. You would think that they would know, given his deep connection to the Oilers.
And he even said, not many people know this. He started the phrase with "not many people know this," and he's right. Yeah. Not many people do know this, but hopefully we can bring people more.
Yeah. So Gabe, let's turn a little bit and talk some hockey. I mentioned Quinn Hughes. So Quinn Hughes off the top, he had a really good opening series.
He's had an unbelievable postseason. In pretty much, so he's got 6 points in his last 2 games, 3 goals, 3 assists. The key one is Game 7 against Dallas on April 30th, which was, I guess, last Wednesday night. He played half the game. He played 28 minutes. He pretty much led the entire team, leads the team every night in time on ice, played 37 minutes in the overtime game, 43 minutes in the game before that. I mean, these are games that are going into extra overtimes. Double overtime was the 43-minute game, and I think it was single overtime was the 37-minute game. That said, in Game 7, he had 2 goals and an assist, including the winner. They lost last night to Colorado, but he had a goal and 2 assists. This is his team. They got him at the deadline to be the missing piece. And all of a sudden, as a defenseman, averaging more than 1 assist a game in the regular season for the 48 games he played, and I guess it would be 5 goals he had, and now in the 7 playoff games he's played so far, 8 playoff games so far, I think he has 10 points.
11 points, now.
11 points, yeah. He has been the best player on the ice and the most important player on the ice in the team pretty much since the day he got there.
I will say the loss against Colorado the other day was a 9-6 loss.
Yes.
I believe his plus minus was 0, and he scored a goal and 2 assists. So he was only on the ice for 3 of those goals, but still, like, not ideal as a defenseman to be on the receiving end of a 9. I don't even know what the slang for a 9
They hung a 9. So
goal game.
he played half the game, right? So, it was 3-3 when he was on the ice in the one half of the game he was on the ice, and then it was 6-3 in the half of the game he wasn't on the ice. So in a game your team loses by 3, to be a even plus minus is pretty spectacular, honestly. Especially when you're playing that much of the game. Nobody in the league still, since he got to Minnesota, touches the puck more than Quinn Hughes. Nobody plays more time than Quinn Hughes. He won the Norris Trophy 2 years ago, and he still had 76 points in a season where he was injured significantly this year. As well as, he had 76 points in a season he only played 74 games. And if he didn't get traded, he has a pretty decent chance of winning another Norris Trophy. Like he's got one more year. He's got one more year on his contract, and he is probably likely to contend for the Norris Trophy again. He is the fastest defenseman ever to 200 assists. Like I said, he is the best setup man in the league. He is maybe the best setup defensive man ever. Now it's a truly generational player.
As good as he's doing, and as much as he's contributing, do the Wild have much of a shot against Colorado? Colorado's been by far the best team in the league this year. They lost the first game. Again, they gave up 9 goals. I mean, not ideal on any night.
No,
is there much of a shot for Minnesota to make it through?
I mean, in the sense that there is a shot for anybody to beat Colorado. Colorado is obviously the favorite, although Minnesota is probably set up pretty well to face Colorado, and that Colorado is the fastest, most dynamic team in the league. There's like a weird stat. Most teams get better on the power play because you're 5-on-4, but Colorado plays so fast and so energetically, they don't actually get that much better on the power play. Like their power play is only slightly better than their just everyday way of playing. And that's how dynamic and fast and exciting of a team they are. I think 9-6 is probably not going to happen again this series, but you're going to see a lot of 5-4 and 5-3 games. It isn't going to be a really, really exciting couple of seasons, or game, and then next season with Quinn in Minnesota, because he's sort of taken over the team so far. And one thing to remember is, even if they do lose to Colorado, as sort of is expected, Quinn Hughes is still only 26. So he's got another decade of play, probably at this level. And he could go down as truly one of the greatest defensemen of all time. Like he absolutely has the opportunity. And I think you're right, is likely to be the best Jewish player of all time before long. I mean, if not his brother, Jack. Right.
So aside from that, I think Quinn may be the last remaining Jewish player on the ice, because we had obviously Zach Hyman and Jake Wallman in Edmonton, lost 4-2. Lost in 6 to the Ducks.
Very unfortunate.
Not able to make it back to the Stanley Cup Finals for a third year in a row, and would have been a good year to do it because there's no Florida on the other side. Finally, Jeremy Swayman between the pipes for the Boston Bruins. We should say named a Vezina finalist.
Vezina finalist, very exciting.
For becoming one of the best goalies in the league. Unfortunately, didn't have a great run against the Sabres.
And the last game especially was not good.
I believe he got pulled in the 6-1 loss as well.
He did get pulled. We actually he was caught on camera screaming at the players on his bench as he was like walking off in a huff to the locker room. Like he was sort of really hung out to dry. And was furious about it. And I kind of think rightfully so. As a Boston Bruins hater, I am happy to see them lose, but I'm sad to see Jeremy Swayman, as a Jeremy Swayman fan, give up 6 goals.
Yeah.
I agree. It's really good that he got nominated for a Vezina. I don't know if he's going to win. We talked that he was a likely nominee earlier this season, as he was really sort of carrying a mediocre Boston team. Remember, they didn't make the playoffs last year. And they didn't really change much. And he is, quite good. What's really interesting to me is that all 3 Vezina finalists, the 2 guys Swayman is against, Vasilevsky and Sorokin, also lost in the first round. So it is, the Islanders didn't make the playoffs, but it is, he has a chance to win. It's probably going to be Vasilevsky, but if Swayman wins, that would be pretty exciting for another Jewish trophy winner.
Cool. Well, we'll continue to follow Quinn Hughes. Obviously, it's been a big year for the Hughes brothers, and Exciting to see how they can hold up against the Avalanche. Maybe surprise some people. I don't think we're going to be seeing a year like 2024 when Zach Hyman led the league in playoff scoring with 16 goals. But Quinn can make a real impact through 2 rounds at a minimum.
Yes, absolutely. So I do want to comment. There is one Jewish player left in the league, which we have forgotten, which is Buffalo Sabres forward Jason Zucker.
Oh, right.
Yeah, Zucker is a proud Jew and a good player. We haven't talked about him much on this league because he is sort of I don't want to call him a grinder, but he is like a general, like a solid NHL player. He is not a superstar. He's played for 5 teams in his career, but he, grew up in Las Vegas. Like, he is not your typical superstar. But he is just a good, solid player who's now on, I think, his 15th NHL season. Had a good long career or 14th NHL season. Yeah, good long career, played well, and is now, he had 25 goals this year. So
no, he definitely contributed to Buffalo in their first round victory as well. He had a fair amount of ice time. I think he assessed him in one of the games. So good luck to him as well. I mean, you never know. Could Buffalo certainly primed for a run? Who can say? Their first time back in the playoffs in a while, and winning a round is pretty exciting.
We get asked this a bunch. Alex Tuch is not Jewish. He looks kind of Jewish. He's from Buffalo. He's playing for Buffalo. He's sort of a scruffy, friendly looking guy. He's not Jewish, unfortunately. I think we'd like to claim him. He's exactly the type of player we'd like to claim, but he is not Jewish.
I see. Moving away from the ice onto the basketball court, we should mark the end of Deni Avdia's season. The Trailblazers. I was certain it was going to be a 4, Spurs in 5, a gentleman's sweep. I think they didn't win one of the home games. The Blazers won the second game on the road.
Yes, which was very surprising.
But it was the game, I think, when Wemby got hurt. So, the Spurs remain one of the favorites. Certainly, if they beat OKC, they'll be the favorites in the finals. I don't know if they'll be favored against Oklahoma City in the next round, assuming those teams both win. But Deni Avdia, really solid finish to his breakout campaign. There hasn't been any announcement about NBA all NBA teams yet, but certainly he's been mentioned as someone who's been getting some votes. After an All-Star campaign and scoring 24 points per game. So it'll be interesting to see whether he makes an All-NBA third team is probably the high end of what he could expect.
Yes.
Obviously some huge contributions to the Blazers games. But I think they were just sort of outmatched by San Antonio. There's a limit to what you can do there. But average 22 points in the 5 games. And a lot to build on. I mean, I think that there's a chance for Portland to get better next year and move up from being a play-in team to being a playoff contender.
He's a superstar now. They are led by a true all-star and a true superstar who had a breakout year. We're incredibly proud of everything Deni has accomplished this year.
Not a lot else in terms of Jewish sporting interest in the NBA playoffs. As I always say, yes, there are a few teams that are still remaining that are owned by Jews. If you want to root for a team based on the religion or ethnicity of the owner, you can do that. That's weird, but feel free to do that if you want. There's lots of Jewish New York Knicks fans, obviously, and celebrity fans like Ben Stiller and Timothy Chalamet, who are representing, in the front row of Knicks games. So exciting to see those real ball knowers and sports fans. I can't recommend enough, following Ben Stiller on Twitter for his nonstop Knicks tweets.
I mean, should we talk about this? He got in a brief bit of trouble last week for tweeting "got it done" on the same day somebody, brought a gun to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Ben Stiller obviously didn't mean "got it done" in terms of threatened the president with a gun, but people on the internet are nuts, generally fairly anti-Semitic. And I think it's, he sort of took a little heat for saying something he didn't mean, or saying something unrelated, specifically about the Knicks. It's just unfortunate. It's almost like the plot of a Ben Stiller movie or a Curb Your Enthusiasm movie where he would cheer, he'd be watching a game on his phone and someone would die and he would start screaming and cheering. Yes, That's sort of what happened.
No, it's great. He still tweets like it's 2008. You know, he's just unfocused.
We followed Ben Stiller's Twitter a lot here.
Just nonstop tweeting about the Knicks. So I respect him and I wish him well. I don't know if the Knicks are going to make it all the way. The Sixers look really solid. The Knicks are winning right now though, so who knows?
Yep. I mean, they're winning by 30 as we record this right now.
It's in game one, so we'll see how that goes. But again, not a lot of Jewish participation this far in the NBA playoffs.
At least not in like we said, in terms of playing. The 76ers are owned by Jews. The Timberwolves are owned by one Jew and A-Rod. Right. And other teams, I think between them, I guess the Cavaliers are also owned by a Jew. Dan Gilbert, I believe, is Jewish.
Yeah. We should say before we move off from basketball, we were I think the last time we spoke, we talked about the WNBA and there not being a lot of representation by Jews in the WNBA since Sue Bird's retirement. And we were told
we were wrong.
We were wrong. Yeah. Natisha Heidemann is Jewish, and she's a Cohen on one side. She's played in Israel and competes with has competed with Team Israel before as an Israeli citizen. Alicia Clark, I think, is Israeli. It was pointed out to us. I think
she's an Israeli citizen, and she, I think, previously Alicia Clark has talked about being Jewish before. Participated on Black and Jewish panels and talked about being on the Black and Jewish community. She is she's involved in the Omri Caspi Foundation. I
think she was brought up Christian, but has Jewish heritage on her mother's side. So, she has had a long career. I think, 10, 15 years now in the league. So cool that she has had that connection with Israel as well. And playing, I think she played for Israeli teams back in. I don't know how much WNBA players are playing. Their off season.
I think it's sort of slowed down.
Slowed down, but she did play for Israeli teams for a few years in the team. So we didn't want to forget about that. And thanks to our listener for writing in about that. Always happy to be corrected and pointed out when there are Jewish players who we have not properly recognized.
Yeah, one other player that's worth being mentioned is her name. She went undrafted. Her name is Yarden Garzon.
Right.
She is the all-time leader in Indiana University field goals. Even though she did her last year at Maryland. Maryland, excuse me. But she did not get drafted. But she is sort of expected to find a game somewhere. She's going to find a job somewhere, if not in Israel, maybe in America, maybe, she has a tryout with the Phoenix Mercury right now, or is on sort of the Phoenix Mercury, preseason. Preseason is going on right now. So she's got a chance to make it. But TBD, we'll be following. I've got a connection. Speaking of Jewish women's sports again, till we get, before we take our break, the PWHL playoffs started last weekend. And we saw a familiar face for Toronto Jewish fans. It was sort of quietly, she was out of the PWHL, had a spectacular season in Sweden, but want to welcome back Sam Cogan, who played in Toronto for a couple of years. She is on the defending champion Minnesota Frost. And she was signed after the Swedish season ended with 6 games left in the PWHL season to sort of bring a little extra muscle and grit to the Frost. They sort of won in an overtime classic actually on Saturday afternoon against Montreal. And Cogan was everywhere. I was watching with a number of friends and people kept on saying Montreal fans kept on saying kind of angrily, who is number 8 causing so much chaos? Who is just, getting in the kitchen of the goalie and everywhere. And she had an unbelievable game. She didn't get on the score sheet, but was probably the most impactful non-scoring player on the ice. So welcome back, Samantha Cogan, to the PWHL and on the, defending champion and already leading the series, Minnesota Frost.
Awesome. Very cool. Why don't we take a quick break and we will come back with a little in memoriam and a little bit of soccer talk. Well, Gabe, as you know, the World Cup is coming to grip our city for some reason this summer.
Yeah, it is.
Everyone's freaking out, and we're spending dozens of millions of dollars on a soccer game that's going to be attended by 50,000 people. How big do they make the stadium?
It's interesting.
Not even so big.
we talked about this off the record, and this is not, fully like Jewish related, but we were very close to getting a Canada-Israel game in Toronto. Canada-Italy game in Toronto. And Canada-Italy would have been the biggest game in the history of Canadian soccer. And now it's just Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Right.
Like, they're a real team.
It's
a good game. It's just not nearly as big of a deal as it almost was.
Well, I suppose it must have been in honor of the World Cup coming to Canada. I mean, it's going to be jointly hosted with Canada, the U.S., and Mexico. But the FIFA Congress was in Vancouver, and that brought about a little bit of controversy. There were representatives of the Israeli Football Federation, as well as the Palestinian Football Federation, in attendance. I believe all the FIFA presidents are there, and
they had an awkward moment, a bit of an awkward moment, Jamie.
Right, they were on stage, and Gianni Infantino, who is the head of FIFA and a bit of a comical character, tried to get the heads of those two delegations to shake hands, and
it didn't go well.
Didn't happen.
I think he saw an opportunity to award another FIFA Peace Prize.
Right.
The first one went to Donald Trump. The second one would go to Israel Palestine. It is a real FIFA move to have done this.
Right. And this is not like a surprise. I mean, to be fair, like the Palestinian Football Federation, I think, makes their stance on Israel's continued participation in FIFA like fairly clear. Like, it's not like this is a secret to anyone about how they feel, and I'm sure Israel's feelings have been probably made on the record as well, which is probably to say, like, well, we accept that they're in FIFA, and we would like to play games against various Muslim countries that are nearby who refuse to host us. And the treatment of Israel in many international sports, but soccer, I think, was the earliest of this sort of we can't even play against our neighbors because they refuse to host us, so it would be unfair to them. The one time Israel made the World Cup was because everybody else sort of laid down, would rather take the loss than play against Israel. Anyways, against this backdrop of history, Infantino tried to make a handshake happen, and it didn't happen. And I mean, like, look, neither Israel nor Palestine are in the World Cup.
They're not in the World Cup. It was something he thought was a photo op. I think he believed he was going to create world peace from this moment.
Right.
Like, Infantino, I think, is not. Like we said, he's a bit of a goofy dude. And I think he had an idea of, like, FIFA is going to be the bridge that pieces together this giant, gap between these two people for 400 years.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the guy to fix it.
As he was quoted afterwards saying, "We work together for the children of the world." I honestly, I will never stop talking about how ridiculous it is that, like, these people have any power whatsoever. I mean, like, it seems like Infantino is at least, like, maybe slightly less, like, out and out corrupt,
as Blatter
in the
was
pocket of the Qatari government as Sepp Blatter was, but he's just, like, also he's just, like, more obsequiously I don't know, in Doha's pocket.
He is quite a goofy dude. We talked about this. Like, Infantino sort of seems like he is a well-meaning dope. I know he's not. Like, he's obviously a very competent man. But I think the idea of like soccer, we are a beautiful game that transcends politics and all sorts of mentions. The rest of the world takes a pause in order to shake hands and play soccer. That is like if that didn't work out, I think he just sort of looks at the camera and goes, "Whoops." It's not. Yeah. It's a little dopey.
Yeah, and this was met by another controversy in which the Iranian Football Federation's president had been allowed entry into Canada, but then when they landed in Toronto, was not allowed into the country. And this became a bit of a brouhaha as well, because I think the opposition Conservatives were sort of defiant on, like, well, how did this person have a visa in the first place? How are they supposed to be let in? And then, if you revoked it at the last second, like, who made these decisions? And just sort of like a falling asleep at the wheel of the people in charge of immigration, but also just a nice way to score political points. So, I mean, I'm all for international sport, but as with its ability to do good, it also has the ability to make people look like idiots, I guess.
Yes.
On the international stage.
And it tends to do that a lot.
Yeah.
Before we go, we do want to talk about someone who isn't an idiot. The sort of sporting world, the baseball world, the radio world, any sort of audio-based entertainment world, really lost an icon today. This morning, we found out about the passing of John Sterling, longtime Yankees broadcaster and sort of Jewish American broadcasting legend. I say he was 87. He called, I guess he called 5,000 consecutive games from 1989 to 2019, where some illness brought him out. And then he worked all the way till the start of the 2024 season. He sort of called specifically at the end of the game on the 15th, was like, I'm old and I'm tired and I'm not going to do this anymore. And he had 2, nice years of retirement before, unfortunately, his illnesses took over. He died of heart failure today. He had a heart attack about a month ago. Something that's kind of amazing, like, when he was in his 80s, he took a foul ball off the head and just stayed in the game, stayed talking and didn't miss a game, was there the next night. Like, he is a very tough guy and who had worked forever, never missed a game, worked like crazy. He has 4 kids, including 3 triplets. Fire has destroyed his apartment building before. He's been stranded on the side of the road and got picked up. He is sort of a legend of the Yankees and of broadcasting. One thing that I think makes him particularly Jewish, he sort of distinctive. He sort of talked in a very Jewish way. I think he was a really Jewish guy in that he often got things wrong a lot, and that was like part of his charm. He talked about plays differently. He had like weird phrases for when people hit home runs. Sometimes he would start singing, start spreading the news. After a win, he would go his famous line of "The Yankees win, the Yankees win." He's a real icon of it. Something I loved for a long time, listening to him and Susan Waldman, who were the broadcasters and the radio of the Yankees for the last 20 years. It really was 2 old Jewish people just talking about baseball while a game went on. He talked in a way that was really familiar, but also comforting and yet a little uncomfortable. It was really like listening to your parents talk about baseball. And it was great. They would as an example, if Yangervis Solarte played for the Blue Jays, they would just spend the next inning and a half trading stories about Yangervis Solarte with not much attention to going on to the game. And that's what listening to John Sterling was like. It was more kibitzing about baseball than actually hearing him call a game. It was divisive. I loved it. And I'm, may his memory be a blessing.
I think that's very well put. There's something about daily broadcasters, especially with baseball, which is almost every day for 6 months of the year, where, you're inviting this person into your house. They become like a family member. They become a familiar voice. His sort of avuncular presence and I would say Talmudic dissertation of that's baseball, Susan, is something we've heard in baseball for a long time. 30 plus years of calling games every day is just a remarkable feat. And I think it is something that has been well celebrated today and over the last several months, and as his illness has been announced and things like that. So really, heartwarming to see the accolades that have been placed on him, and wish well to his family, and may his memory be a blessing. I'm sure it will be for Yankees fans for a long time.
He was honored. Susan Waldman and Michael Kay honored him before the game tonight. They, I think, put something under home plate or put flowers on home plate for him, which is very nice. A way we can all remember John Sterling as he, started the phrase, or he coined the phrase, which is he said every time and has done a lot. It is high, it is far, it is gone, which you've heard from thousands of broadcasters in the last 40 years because he said it first. Right. And sometimes he missed it. There's a famous call I love during the Blue Jays a couple of years ago. I think it was the season opening game 2 years ago, where it was the bottom of the 9th, and whoever the Jays closer at the time served up a meatball to Giancarlo Stanton that would have been a walk-off home run. And it goes, it is high, it is far, it is caught, and the game is over. That was the kind of John Sterling experience you had.
That's great. Well, the last of a real era of, guys of a certain age, he was born in 1938. That's a long time to be announcing and involved in baseball. So again, may his memory be a blessing. And why don't we end it there? As always, we are brought to you by the Canadian Jewish News. Our executive producer is Michael Freeman. You can find all our content on the Canadian Jewish News website, thecjn.ca. Find us on Twitter at Menschwarmers. And I'll sign it off. There, Gabe. That's Menschwarmers, Gabe.
That's Menschwarmers.